AITA for not agreeing to house my pregnant teenage sister and her delinquent boyfriend after our parents disowned her. My family and I grew up very poor. From when I was old enough to legally work, I, 19F, have had to take on multiple jobs while balancing school to help with my family and my younger sister. Growing up, I never had a lot, and whatever money I earned I would spend on my sister, 16F, and family. When I was 18 and had just been accepted into college, my dad's business that he'd worked on for the past couple of years finally took off. This also meant that my sister could now have a normal high school experience without worrying about money. While I was in college, I wasn't in contact with my sister that much since I was so busy with schoolwork. However, from our calls and her social media, I could tell she had changed completely and was involved with some bad people. She would post videos on her Snapchat of her getting drunk, smoking, driving while most likely drunk, etc. I tried reaching out to her, but she would mostly deny the claims and told me to mind my own business. At some point, she justified her actions using the argument, "This is what the cool kids do now. Not everyone was a nerd like you in high school." One of my high school friends who also has a brother in the same grade reached out to me and said that she heard that my sister was seeing a sketchy guy from another school. Apparently he is engaged in illegal activities and was expelled from my sister's high school. I asked my sister about this and she denied it. Last week I got a phone call from my mom who was sobbing. She tells me that my sister is pregnant. I was so shocked that I could not speak. Then I was angry. When I was her age and even younger, I gave her everything, and so did my parents, so she could have all the opportunities her peers had. Since my dad's business became lucrative, they've given her every opportunity to succeed. Any extracurricular, sports she wants, academic tutoring, school activities, etc. I never got any of those things. It angered me so much that she took all of this for granted and messed up her life. The father, her delinquent boyfriend who got expelled and is involved in illegal activities. She blows up my phone, but I don't respond. She then sends me a series of long text messages asking if she can crash at my place. She also asked me if I could make her an appointment to see a doctor. Lastly, she asked if it would be okay if her boyfriend comes and stays over sometimes. I shut her down. I told her that you dug this hole for yourself. If you allowed yourself to become pregnant, then you should be able to deal with the consequences. Also, I'm currently sharing a small apartment with 2 roommates. She begged some more, and I denied her. In the past few days, she's still be texting me and calling me non-stop saying that she has nowhere to go and has been living in her boyfriend's car. I haven't responded to a single message of hers, but I feel my resolve wavering a bit. I fully don't support her, but maybe I'm being an idiot. Edit. To clarify, I would still never house her in my apartment. That would be extremely disrespectful towards my roommates and would get me kicked out due to the lease agreement. I meant I was considering giving in and sending her some money. Edit 2. My parents have disowned her, not kicked her out. They are refusing to acknowledge that she is their daughter, but she is still welcome to live in their house. She chose not to since my parents are absolutely fuming and probably will yell at her and criticize her, which she honestly needs. Update. It's been a little bit more than 2 weeks since my first post and I guess it's safe to say now that the situation has been resolved in probably the best way possible. In my last post, I stated that my sister was still living in the car of her delinquent boyfriend and refusing to come home because my parents had disowned her. At this point, I would like to clarify that my family and I are Chinese, and it is common in Chinese culture to disown your kids when they do something that largely disappoints or embarrasses you. However, this is not a permanent disownment like many of you have brought up. As long as my sister apologizes sincerely and they can see that she is actively trying to fix her mistake and become better, they will take her back as their daughter. Another clarification would be for those people who assumed that my dad kept us poor since he was stubborn and wanted to work on his business and not get a real job. His business was a passion project on the side. My dad was working 50 hours a week at 2 jobs. Alrighty, on to what ultimately happened with my sister. Despite the chain of advice I sent her, she ignored me still. I regularly checked in with her over the next week to see how she was, and she gave me one-word replies until they ultimately stopped. I was growing concerned after she didn't pick up her cell, but then I received a call from my parents. According to my mom, my sister had returned home crying and begging for forgiveness. She had a serious talk with my parents where she apologized for her behavior and promised to make amends. My mom was very tearful as well. They scheduled a doctor's appointment for her immediately, and I believe she went in the next day. I had no idea what made her finally break and return home, so I texted her. First, I told her I was proud of her for taking action and being mature, and asked if anything happened between her and her boyfriend. At first she was pretty stubborn and kept insisting that she was just over living in a car, but after a while she finally admitted that her boyfriend had requested that she start selling for him if she wanted to keep living in his car and eating his food, that he was sneaking her. LMAO. What a man. Glad my sister finally returned to her senses. She told me she broke it off with him, and I sincerely hope that's the truth. This past Monday, she got the pills to successfully terminate her pregnancy. According to my mom, she was begging that they do it as soon as possible, which was really a breath of relief for all of us, because we were worried she might want to keep it. The future seems pretty bright right now for her. My parents decided to pull her out of the public school and send her to a progressive private school that some of my close friends also went to. It's a fantastic school and I think it'd be great for her. She's officially starting next Monday. I'm going to visit her and my family this weekend and see how she's doing. Edit. Forgot to add that the new school also has a wonderful counseling department. I urged my parents to speak to the head psychologist there, and they did, and she will be having mandatory weekly meetings with her and another therapist at the school. Reddit comments. While I'm glad she's home and the worst has been avoided, I really wonder if the underlying issues will be addressed. The whole family dynamic does not sound healthy, traditional or not, and in addition your sister has gone through a lot. From being disowned, all that things with her boyfriend, and now the pregnancy termination. Please check up on her regularly to make sure she's coping alright, and I would very strongly suggest to get her a therapist or at least a school counselor to talk to, ideally family therapy too, but I don't know if your parents would be open for that at all. At the end of the day, she is only 16 and all of this went past typical teenage rebellion. If the underlying causes are not addressed, it won't matter that she changed schools, the problems will still be there. Also, pregnancy termination can be very traumatizing and just confusing with all the emotions involved, even when the woman wants it and has planned it well. Your sister didn't have much of a choice, no good choices anyway, and she is still very young. She really needs an adult who she can trust to talk to about all of her feelings and issues without judgment. My parents have never been emotionally or physically mistreating my sister. They've been supporting and loving all our lives, but my sister simply got in with the wrong crowd. It happens. But then again, neither of us up until last month have committed an action this shocking and upsetting. This is the first time my parents have sustained a disappointment like this from their kid. I'm not justifying that their behavior was correct, simply explaining where they learned that behavior. They reacted in the only way they were taught to, and it was incorrect. Again, I don't agree with it. It's great that you've got her a therapist. I just want to mention that not all therapists mesh well with every patient, so it would be great if you offered her an alternative therapist if she doesn't like this one. You've done great and this isn't a criticism, just tip. A bad therapist is worse than no therapist, so it's important that she gets to meet more than one, especially if she's forced to go. Again, good job brother. I'm glad she is switching schools, because that could really be a life changer for her. She needs to be encouraged to make new friends at her new school, because she will continue to seek a place to belong outside of family. Sense of belonging is pervasive throughout anyone's life, and she sought it with the wrong group the first time around. Remember, family is an important influence, but friends can be just as big at times. I can really see her running back to hang out with her old friends if she fails to integrate well into her new one. People can change, it all depends on internal and external motivation.